How's it going, everyone? I hope all is well, and I hope all is well with your families. It's Mr. Allen coming at you from the apartment to talk about Macbeth. Let's get into it! Alrighty then, folks. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you today about the play Macbeth by William Shakespeare, as you are kind of assigned to perform one of these very, very, very famous monologues from the play. You have to realize that you're participating in a tradition that has lasted hundreds of years. These specific monologues are arguably the most performed of Shakespeare plays, but also the most sought after. Only the best actors are awarded these roles because of their significance to culture, and just because of how intense the roles are, how demanding they are. So today I wanted to go over two monologues, which I have listed right here. The first is from Act 2, Scene 1, and it's a monologue from Macbeth himself. And the second we'll be going over is Lady Macbeth's monologue from Act 5, Scene 1, which is kind of the beginning of the end, right? Act 5 is the final act of the play. So the first thing I want to do is just read through them, and then I kind of want to talk about the context, and then we'll kind of analyze some of the text. So let's look at the context first. So for Act 2, Scene 1. At this point in the play, Macbeth and his wife, Lady Macbeth, there should be a comma there, are hosting King Duncan, Duncan's sons, and others at Macbeth's castle. After being convinced by his wife to seize power, Macbeth and his wife plan to murder Duncan, the King of Scotland, while he is sleeping. They plan on getting Duncan's servants drunk and then placing the bloody dagger and Duncan's blood on them while they are sleeping to shift the blame. This monologue addresses Macbeth's internal struggle. That is, whether he should murder someone in cold blood, his own king, whom he pledged loyalty to, especially while they're sleeping in the safety of his own home. And Macbeth kind of reflects on this earlier in the play, and he thinks about the responsibility he has as a friend and as a host to someone. You can't murder someone if you're hosting them in your house, right? But he goes through with it because he's very ambitious, and he wants to seize power, and he's egged on by his wife. His wife insults his masculinity, essentially emasculates him, takes away his manhood figuratively, in order to convince him to kill Duncan. Okay, so the themes we're going to be looking at here are hallucinations, which are representative of guilt, blood, guilt itself, visions, and then this concept of fate versus free will, right? Macbeth kind of receives these prophecies, and at this point in the play, it's kind of up to the audience to decide, okay, is Macbeth a victim of fate here? Is his destiny already set for him, or is he himself causing all of these events to unfold, right? And that's something you can decide through the play. All right, so let's take a look at the text, folks. So it starts right here. And again, this is Act 2, Scene 1. So Macbeth says, "Go bid thy mistress, when my drink is ready, she strike upon the bell, get thee to bed." And so his mistress is his wife, Lady Macbeth. And so he basically shoos the servant away, right? And this is where the monologue really starts. So he says, and just to say this, when you're reading Shakespeare and when you're reading poetry, you read as if you're reading normal dialogue. You don't end at each line. So let's give it a shot. "Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee." So Macbeth is visioning a dagger right in front of him, the handle toward his hand, meaning the blade is pointing away from him, essentially guiding him somewhere, right? "I have thee not, and yet I see thee still," meaning he doesn't physically have it because it's in front of him, but he sees it, right? Art you not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight?" So he's kind of weighing the possibility of this dagger being, can he physically grab it, or is it just kind of in his vision, right? And he says, or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat oppressed brain. So Macbeth's brain is fevered right now, right? He has all this things that he's thinking about and contemplating, such as murder. And so is he saying, okay, is this just a dagger created from my thoughts? I see thee yet, in form as palpable as which now I draw. Palpable meaning you can feel it, you can taste it. And he says, I see thee now as real as the dagger I actually draw, right? And now he pulls out a dagger. He says, thou marshallest me the way that I was going. This dagger is guiding me the way that I was going. And yet, this is pretty significant, right? He says, the way that I was going. So he was already kind of planning on doing this act in the first place, which brings us back to that fate versus free will point, right? And such an instrument I was to use. The instrument here is the dagger, right? Mine eyes are made the fools of other senses. Other senses meaning taste, touch, smell, right? Are his eyes playing tricks on him? Or else worth all the rest? I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. So now there's gore and blood covering the blade of the dagger. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. Now over the one-half world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder, alarum by his sentinel the wolf, whose howls his watch thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides towards his design moves like a ghost. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. One thing you have to keep in mind with Shakespeare is that he had to cater to a very well-educated audience. So he puts in a lot of classical references because educated folks at the time would be educated in religion and what we call today the classics, right? Latin, Greek, kind of ancient texts, mythology, etc. So all of these kind of strange names are essentially just references to older texts or older myths. Pale Hecate, she's kind of this evil witch character, right? We see this concept of the wolf, which is an animal that's kind of known to be out at night, right? Howling at the moon. And essentially Macbeth's kind of hoping for stealth, right? He wants the night to conceal his act. He's reflecting on what he's about to do, right? He's about to do some bloody business. Okay, let's continue. Thou, sure in firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk, for fear thy very stones prate of my whereabouts, and take the present horror from the time, which now suits with it. Whiles I threat he lives. Okay, let's pause there. Let's take a look. So essentially he's just hoping that the stones don't creak or move and give away his position, right? I'm sure we've all snuck home at one point in our lives, and we're hoping that our staircase doesn't creak every step we take and our parents and guardians don't wake up, right? I know I experienced that a few times in high school. Okay, let's continue. Whiles I threat he lives meaning King Duncan, right? King Duncan is still living as long as Macbeth is still creeping, right? Words to the heat of deeds too cold breath gives. Okay, a bell rings. So Lady Macbeth signals that the plan is in motion and he should commit the murder, right? And so Macbeth says, I go and it is done. The bell invites me. And this is one of the most famous lines in the play here. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell, meaning that bell ringing is signaling Duncan's death, right? And Macbeth basically murders the guy in his sleep, stabs him a bunch of times, viciously kills his own king, the King of Scotland. Okay, folks, so now I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to start a new video for the Lady Macbeth monologue, just so I don't have any upload issues. So tune in for the next one. Thank you.